for a little OmegaBall breakdown. Who better to join us than my partner, Ricky Lopez-Espin, always on the call with me during the OmegaBall Invitationals. And pleased to be joined by William Paco Prado of Saturday's Football. He knows a thing or two about winning. In fact, his team took away the cash and the crown last time out when we were down in San Diego. Paco, I'll start with you first. Talk about the evolution of your team and what you guys did to be able to ultimately win down in San Diego.
I think we kind of put like a system into play of how, we play. We don't necessarily, we're not the fittest guys. We're all older, about 35 and up. So we take more advantage of the space and then necessarily than the speed of it. Kind of control the tempo and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and Ricky, we've noticed it over the evolution of OmegaBall, right? It's still a sport that is in its infancy, but it continues to grow all around the globe. And Ricky, it's how teams start to figure it out throughout the course of a game, really, because depending on what the opponent does, depending on how teams use the space, how teams like to attack, all of a sudden you have to, kind of bend the details as to how you're going to attack and how you're going to defend.
I think that's the beauty of OmegaBall, right? Because there's no real one way to play that makes you have the most success, right? You start to figure out into your individuals, what are they good at? What is our team good at collectively? So, Paco, I want to ask you, when you first played OmegaBall, right, what was the first thing that you noticed saying, okay, we need to do better at this in order to succeed and ultimately win?
The first thing I noticed is that we can't keep up with the fit teams, right? We see 2 goals, you want to keep scoring, you want to keep going, but sometimes your legs can't go anymore. And I think the very first time we did, I think we did pretty well, but like I was gassed by like the second quarter. And yeah, like I think the following time we were kind of like, all right, let's relax, we let the game come, we'll get into it at some point. We're usually always behind too. It's funny, like we're beat down by like 6-7 goals, but then you start seeing people get tired. It's kind of all right, now we can start going into it, So I think just really mastering the space of how big that circle is. It looks probably smaller on TV, but it's really big in person. So, taking advantage of the space we have and all that, you kind of grow into the game as it goes. We're more about technique than we are about running and, all that stuff. So we get a little more rest because we have the ball and we're not, chasing teams down for the most part.
The next question I have for you is formational wise. Do you have someone centrally, or is it just saying, hey, let's be as expansive as we possibly can, so that gives us the best way to attack both goals? Or just walk us through why your team was so successful and like what type of formation did you guys play?
Well, I want to give my winning formula, but for the most part, we do a 1-2-1, kind of one in the back, which I'm usually the pivot, and then the 2 wingers and a forward. Okay. It's just too chaotic in the middle to have a guy in there for no reason, for me at least. But then again, it's backfired on us. We've lost before too, because you have numbers coming at you more. But my point of view is you have a pivot that can just swing the ball. The 2 winger got to be dangerous, and the forward's got to be a poacher. Got to be at the right place at the right time, and that's kind of what we've been relying on, and it's been been working.
It seemed to work out pretty well for you guys down in San Diego. With that type of formation that you described, I noticed one of the things that you guys did really well, and we saw it early on in the championship match, was the ability to pivot and switch the point of attack, right? All of a sudden you're attacking on Pasha's goal, but immediately you guys would say, hey, the numbers is too crowded, too much traffic, and immediately would turn and attack the 3rd goal on the field.
Yeah.
How do you decide when those moments come about? Because you guys seem to balance that really well.
Yeah, we just play like the numbers game, right? So one guy's going by himself. We're like, hey, well, then the other 3 should be open on the other side. So usually our goalie's very good with his feet. So it's kind of just being aware of the surroundings. And I think a lot of the individuals I bring, they're high IQ for soccer, and they're just aware of just the numbers. It comes natural, It's something that, I guess you can teach it, but it's just something that we just kind of already know. So it's a huge counter pivot game. That's kind of what I see it as. If you can switch it right away, then you should get a shot off at least.
When you are picking your teams, what individual, skill sets do you look for in different positions?
Well, first, technical, right? You have to be able to have the ball around 2 other teams, so you got to be comfortable on it. Tactical, obviously, I mean, the tactics change every second of the game, but the system or the style still kind of plays within, the game, what it gives you. But like I said, like sometimes the numbers aren't always there. So with the keeper, having a keeper that's confident to come out, that can play make, that can, give an assist, score, whatever it is, it just gives you an extra number on the field. So I can leave the back knowing that, okay, well, I got my keeper that can play a horrible pass, he'll bring it down, control it, we can switch it. So it's just an extra person, and in that kind of game, it helps a lot.
Ricky, I think one of the things that we noticed about Saturdays on their way to winning the title was the role playing of certain guys, and Paco's touched on it a little bit, but Chris Cortez sticks out a little bit for me, as he was, if I'm not mistaken, he almost really acted as your true target. If we were talking numbers in a traditional sense of the game, he was a true number 9, right?
Yeah.
Because he didn't come really back and defend too much. He kept space all the way up top. And Ricky, we saw it. It played out really well, because he probably scored with his head more than anybody that we've seen in a championship match.
Yeah.
It always gave up an option, right? Something you and I mentioned. It always gave him that option over the top, attacking a goal. And what I really loved about this team and Saturdays was the secondary movements, right? So it was into Cortez, and then it was one of the wingers coming underneath. And also we saw a pivot going to the opposite goal. So there's always options for Saturdays. And that was something that no team really figured out. No team really understood how to defend, and ultimately why they won the championship.
I told Cortez to be, hey, just stay high. Do not come back. Your job is between the 2 goals. You poach. Whatever you got to do, you score. That's all you got to do. Don't defend. You could act like you're defending, kind of like, push them our way. Push them where we're at, the numbers, right? But yeah, target was exactly what we were going for the whole time.
Well, it sounds like, you would obviously have plenty of discussion, Paco, with guys on your team. What are those critical moments during a match? Because, we had our live mics in there sometimes in between periods. And yes, you would hear a lot of rah, like, hey, let's keep it going. Hey, let's stay fresh. But there was also some tactics talk in there. Can you describe some of those conversations?
Tactic. Well, honestly, there's one tactic that I use that I'm not going to say because it helps a lot, and that's what helps us turn the game around. Honestly, kind of giving a momentum to a certain team when they're not really in it anymore. So that's what kind of the tactic that I do. Just because every time the lower team has the ball, and let's say they score, we get the ball back. So now we have control of it, right? And the more control we have of the ball, the more we control the game.
Ricky, that's a whole new wrinkle we just heard from Paco right there. That is a whole new wrinkle right there, right? Because if I'm reading between the lines right here, Ricky, I think he's saying it's okay every now and then if we concede, because then the ball is at the feet of our keeper to start the next play.
Exactly. That's something that you and I, however many years we've been doing this, have not once heard. But also, Paco, just to see the true competitor you are. Obviously, this is for the global viewer, right, to understand what OmegaBall is about, but you're still not giving away your tactic, which is awesome. But speaking about the global viewer in OmegaBall, give us 2 things that you think is the biggest difference between OmegaBall and traditional soccer.
I think the 2 biggest things for me, obviously, you get some outrageous goals, right? Some crazy ones, so just the goal scoring is a lot different. Obviously, it's more exciting. And just the transition of just the chaos, right? You don't really know what's going to happen next. One team's losing by 6, all of a sudden they come back, and now they're dangerous. It's just, it's almost like the unknown. So it's just more exciting, right? So I would just say the goal scoring and the unknown of what's going to happen or how it turns out.
Along the lines of the possibility of a comeback, the beauty of OmegaBall is you're never really out of it. And I think we saw that in the final when you guys had the lead, but all of a sudden it was those North Carolina boys who started to push. It was all the way down to the final seconds down in San Diego. Can you detail what it was like in those final few minutes of that third and final period? Because it wasn't like you guys were trying to hang on to the rope, but they pushed you to the end.
Oh no, yeah, it was nerve-wracking for sure. Like when you're out there, you're just kind of like, what the heck is going on, dude? We're just up by 6 goals, right? And it's like that's where the tactics doesn't always work out in your favor, right? Because I was still doing the same tactics that we did to win it, and it was backfiring on us, right? We were still, they were catching up. So again, it's just like we got to just somehow either waste time, which you really can't waste time in the sport either. Which in soccer you could run to the corner, hold the ball, waste time. But in this, it's just you go out of bounds, it's another team's ball right away. So it's just, I mean, what's going through my mind? I was like, dude, we better not blow this. I wasted a lot of money last night, dude. Come on. But honestly, we were just panicking, and like you see when the final whistle blows, we won. We're just thrilled, we're excited. We're like, damn, we actually won it. So
well, yeah, I mean, if you remember, right, I think they had a set piece, a delta kick opportunity down a goal in like the final 3 to 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And that was their opportunity to really try and equalize.
Yeah.
What do you remember about those final few seconds there?
Well, it was funny because they had a free kick, I believe, going towards the other team's goal, but then we left the other side exposed, right? So if they would have played it the other way quicker, they could have gone probably like a one-on-one with their other keeper. But like in this sport, like you're so focused on the goal that you're facing, but the weak side is always the most dangerous side in this game, right? So if they would have played it quicker and gone the other way, they probably would have scored a goal. I think it ricocheted. It might have gone the other way, and then we kind of like got it and kicked it out of bounds. Can't remember the final play, but I remember at the moment there was a chance they could have switched it, and I was like, thank God they didn't, because it would have been more dangerous going the other side.
No, it did ricochet off the original free kick, and then it went out for a set piece right off of the side of their goal, which again Pasha had, and again they just tried to drive the ball in toward you guys, and see if anything could happen in the mixer in a dangerous area. But you're completely right. They could have easily pivoted it and gone in the opposite direction, and probably had numbers.
Yep.
And talk to us a little bit more about those set pieces, edge kicks, delta kicks, whatever they are, because there's something that are so unique in OmegaBall, right? Because you can score from one, you can score directly off of one, but you also have 2 goals that you can attack. So talk to me about the mindset and the approach from one of those.
I mean, on free kicks, we don't really have any plan for the free kick, right? I mean, if you have the confidence to take it. But for the most part, we kind of look at it as like almost like an indoor game, where it's like, keep the space. If a guy's open closer to the goal, try to, do a quick pass or whatever it is. But I don't necessarily like the shooting from like, anywhere, because like I said, a ricochet can go the other way. And now you're down numbers, right? Because just being a normal soccer player, you put numbers towards goal where the ball's going to be at, right? But being an OmegaBall soccer player, you never know the ball can go the other way. So you got to just be aware. So, I mean, I think free kicks are more so just, if it's close enough, you can get a good shot, let it go. If not, just try to, play make, try to do a pass, like a quick touch in, or, switch the field, whichever.
Well, now obviously somebody's going to be coming for you guys since you're our latest champ in 2024. Now that we're into 2025, what's the evolution of your roster? Do you run it back with the same crew, or now that you have more experience, even another notch on your belt, are you saying, hey, we're missing this piece, or we can get rid of this piece and we need to add a new piece like this? How do you massage your roster and what will look like to try and stay on top?
I mean, if the guys are all available, keep the same guys again. You don't fix what's not broken. So, keep the same. If, fortunately some guys can't make it, find guys that are similar style, similar, player, all that stuff, and kind of just go with it. The same thing again, right?
Yeah. And, Ricky and I had a blast covering it. It was a good story to tell. Ricky, I think you would agree, right? I mean, from going through the early rounds and obviously getting through the semifinals. I mean, you get the longevity. Hey, you guys might be older. I'm the old guy here, but you guys might be older when it comes to OmegaBall teams. But Ricky, I mean, they had the goods in this tournament.
Yeah, they were the best team from front to back, from start to finish. And I think it comes down to really knowing what they want to do on both sides of the ball. And I think it starts with you, Paco, right? Obviously, you have a clear strategy and you implement it. You tell your teammates that, quite frankly, very clearly, so everyone's on the same page. And it's going to be really interesting. Now that you're the hunted, it's going to change a little bit now.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the next one for sure.
Are you guys making plans to join us this summer?
Of course, all the time. Whenever we're available, we definitely want to be there. It's fun.
Awesome.
Game on.